Hello everyone. This video is going to cover the requirements for Project 2, how to make it, and what the file you have should sort of look like by the time you're done with it. And we're going to go ahead and break that down step by step. So the first thing I want to talk about is what exactly is Project 2 as a escape animation. Escape animation is just creating the illusion of movement on stage. So what I've got here is, I'm going to go ahead and just play this for you right away. So give it a minute to export. And yours, once you get later on the project, when you're about to submit, you'll probably start running into slower exporting times as well. I'm also screen capturing, so that'll slow it down a little bit too. And here we go. So here's my car. It animates to the center of the screen, but then the illusion of movement of it actually continuing going to the right side is the objects that move in front and behind it to create that illusion. So this is really just centered at the middle of the stage, basically. And then the stop sign, my foreground and my background are both animating to give it that illusion. So that right there are a number of requirements, and I'm going to cover those as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and exit this, and I'm going to start to break down this scene itself. So we've established, and I'm going to hide my rainfall for now. And this is just a number of the labs we've done together, just brought into one scene, more or less. So I don't want you are not allowed to take my car and use it for this project. You have to create your own subject. So some of the examples I can think of off the top of my head are an airplane I've seen, a submarine, a rocket ship. I've seen mermaids swim with fishes. I've seen walk cycles. I've seen a lot of trucks and cars, motorcycles, a lot of vehicles that animate across the stage. So that's a really common one. And don't try to push yourself to do something more difficult. If you've never done a walk cycle or something before, do not try it with this particular project. So that being said, if you have done a lot of animation before, sure, go ahead, dive right into it. But unless you have that experience, do not try it. It will be far too difficult for you. That being said, I'm going to keep going forward and kind of break down the scene. So the first thing is my car, and it's my nested symbol. I'm going to unlock that. So if I go ahead and double click on it, I've got one symbol animating, two symbol animating, three symbol animating. So break that down, the light changes colors and the wheels rotate. Alright. The next thing is I have it animate to the center of the stage, and then it's approximately frame 60 or whatever. And then once it hits frame 60, this stays in the center of the stage. Meanwhile, only the foreground and the background actually animate. So my stop sign and my buildings, and they animate to the left, giving it the illusion that this is actually moving to the right, but it's staying directly put in the center of the screen. It's not until the end of the screen where it animates off of the stage. So that's a really, really good little tip, is to try and make this as simple as possible by holding your main subject in the stage and keeping your animations simple but yet effective. And this is just creating the illusion of movement. So those are my three, going back to the guidelines of the project requirements on the rubric. I've got my foreground, my midground, and my background. I have my stage size set to 1280 by 720. Go ahead and show this now. I've got my one nested symbol with the symbols nested and animated within it right here. I've got 3 motion tweens. That's my foreground, midground, background. Right there. I've got my naming convention and organization. Have everything named in your library and layers. So in my layers here, this is all named, and my library all named as well. So you scroll through and scroll through. And it's okay to have things named with a number after it. That's okay, but it cannot be like Untitled 1 or Untitled 2. You'd have to have it specified. Include at least one squash and stretch. Now this is always one of the more difficult ones that students sort of struggle with. They don't know where to include it or how to include it. And really it's pretty straightforward. It's the same thing as the bouncing ball. I have it retain the same size all the way up to this point. And then I just did it for a little effect, I guess. The lightning strikes, and that's what prompts the car to squash and then stretch, and then it returns back to its normal size. But we don't exactly see it that way because it's off the stage already. But it does take a little toll on the eye. You can notice it. To put it one way is you would notice it if it wasn't changing. A lot of times you'll notice something that isn't doing something versus something that is doing something. So that's just like a general rule of thumb. Now going back to everything else, I've got a large number of layers here, 10, 15, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 layers. And then I've got, I don't know how many symbols. A bunch. So all of my symbols are doing something. They're all animating. I've got a shape tween included in here as well with my radial gradient sunset. I'll go ahead and add that there, sunset, so you guys know. I've got my rainfall, which is a motion tween, but it's just a nested symbol of itself within itself a whole bunch of times. I've got all of these different types of animations happening. This little frame by frame animation on my light here nested within the car symbol. So I've created a large different types of animations in order to get some of the effects that I wanted. And then I've got one little tip that I haven't covered with you is how to make these turn white or whatever you want it to turn is through the color effect and motion tweens. So using the motion tween on my building, it also allows me to key the properties in here. So I have it set to begin to animate here on frame 453, and I have to click on the symbol itself, and you'll notice I have the brightness keyed right here at 0%. I'm going to scrub 2 frames forward, then the brightness is keyed at 100, and all I did was slide this to 100, and then on this frame here, 4 or 5 frames later, I key it back at 0%, so I just slid it back to 0%, or entered 0 and pressed enter. So that's really probably the only thing that we haven't covered that's in this lab, because everything in this lab, or in this project, excuse me, has been covered in the labs. So that being said, make sure you create something with your own subject matter. You cannot use my car. You will lose full credit on that portion if you do. Be sure to include all of the requirements: stage size, foreground, midground, background, nested symbol, motion tweens, naming convention, a squash and stretch, and then make sure that you have it set to at least 480 frames. And one of the things that I like to do with this is I like to set my frame count right off the bat to a number that I'm going to animate to. If I already know I need something to be 10 seconds or 20 seconds long, my first thing that I do is I'll create some type of content that I'm going to be using in my animation. And then I'm just going to go all the way to the end and just insert frame. Right click, insert frame, and that's going to insert a frame across the entire board all the way up to that particular frame. In this case, I did it to 480. So that being said, you can create these in different files and then just paste them in. So you can copy layer, paste layer in here into your main project file. So you kind of get a little uncomfortable working with so many layers, or something like your computer starts slowing up a little bit, you might find it a little bit faster and efficient to work within your new files with smaller animations that you later import to the larger one, like the scape animation. It's just a little tip if you want to try it. As far as everything else goes, pretty much sums it all up. If you have any questions, be sure to message me, and have fun with this project most of all, because animation can be a lot of fun. It can also be a hair puller, but once you get to a certain quality or a certain point where you feel like you've accomplished something, it's a really great feeling. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you this one more time. So this is a pretty good example of a project too. This is what we're looking for, but with your own work. Again, it might take a minute to export. Feel like you need the Jeopardy music here. So it'll just be another moment. The screen capture definitely does not help this process. And there we go. So we've got the car animating. All the way through. And I would have liked to have done something more than just a silhouette of buildings in the background, but there we go. So there's my little scape animation for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope this was helpful for you. And again, don't be shy. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message. Thanks for watching.